show. I'm your host, Arlene. I'm a life coach, a business consultant, and the best-selling author of the book, 10 Secrets to Overcoming Fear and Living Courageously. Today, I'm really excited because we have a special guest. She is Bronx born and bred, and she is highly successful. She's an attorney. She has grown up right here in our neighborhood of the Bronx, New York, but yet she attended the prestigious university of the University of Pennsylvania and studied criminology and African studies, as well as Africana studies, where she received also a Bachelor of Arts degree. And then she went on to work at the prestigious firm of Morgan Stanley as a compliance analyst. She further went on and pursued her studies at Fordham University in law. And not only did she attend law school at Fordham University, but she became the president of the Black Student Law Association. She was also the editor-in-chief of the Fordham University Law Review, and that was the first in the history of the university. And then she went on to clerk at the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in New York City, and she begins her clerkship at the U.S. District Court. I am so excited to introduce you to this wonderful lady. Not only has she achieved success in her academics, but she's also happily married and a lady who embraces her faith. So we are so excited to introduce to some and reintroduce to others, for those of you who are a part of our listening audience and know her, Miss Tatiana Hyman. Hello,
Hi.
Tatiana. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on this platform today.
It is an honor to have you because you are truly the embodiment of what we talk about in the show. We talk about overcoming fear, getting unstuck, living courageously, but this is something that you have done time and time again. Most people who go to a prestigious university may move on, but you kept going and you sought out leadership positions at every step of the journey. So please share with us today and tell us, what was the driving force, Tatiana? What keeps you not just being successful, but looking at the heights of success in every environment that you're in? What's the driving force? How do you do that?
Yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to share that because I think that is really the meat of my story. So I'll start at the beginning. I am a daughter of Jamaican immigrants. Both of my parents were born in Jamaica, and I am the
Hey, we both
firstborn.
share that. That's also
Yes.
why I love you.
Yes. So, heritage and foundation and background is very important. So I'm the first of four children. So my parents, so I'm the firstborn or the oldest. And I think the first driver in my life was really just my parents' foresight and my parents' value of education. So growing up here in the Bronx, my parents sacrificed to place me in Catholic school. So I attended a Catholic school in my neighborhood from kindergarten through 8th grade. And during, that time of schooling, I really thrived. And I just did well academically, I think just because of my own passion for education, but also the expectations that my parents had of me and just the way that they partnered with my teachers to ensure that I was taking full advantage of my educational journey. So while I was there at my school, one of the principals that was there, she recommended me for a program that is based here in New York City called Prep for Prep 9. And the purpose of that program is to prepare inner city students who are students of color, so Black and Hispanic and Asian students who live in inner cities in New York for preparatory schools, which are like day schools or boarding schools. And if you don't know what a boarding school is, it's pretty much a high school environment where the high schoolers live on campus. And
Which
so,
as well.
can you repeat that?
I said that is so interesting that you're sharing the explanation of that, because both of us did that, and many people may not even be aware that this is an option.
Absolutely. That is one of my passions, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. But I think I'm really called to share these opportunities with others, because one thing that really troubles me is that, coming up in these neighborhoods, opportunities can just be kind of shut out. A lot of people who grow up in inner city Bronx or Brooklyn or whatever borough, they just see the public schools or, just the schools that are here in the city. And there's so many other schools out there that students in our city can have access to. So even in my personal family circles, I'm trying to do a better job of, letting parents know, look, there are other things that you can look into for your children. We can't continue to follow these cycles where we keep talent within our community instead of spreading it across the country. So that's one thing that I'm really passionate about. But, in addition to my parents pushing me and the principal at my school seeing the promise in me, another driver was really just my faith. And, when I came to sort of my graduate school journey, it was really God's leading that led me to pursue law school. Because one thing that really marks my journey is that I always thought I wanted to go to law school growing up. I did legal internships throughout high school and college. But when it came to that point for me to apply, I almost got crippled with fear, because all I ever heard about law school growing up was that it was difficult, it was expensive, that it
Absolutely.
was really, really hard.
And maybe there weren't a lot of people surrounding you who had also walked that journey. And I want to focus in on that journey. So
Yeah.
before we do that, we skipped a whole lot. You said a whole lot, and I don't want to gloss over it. You
Right.
were in school and you were a hard worker. You were diligent. And I want to know, what was it that made you sort of stand out and be that standout academic student? Were you just naturally smarter than everybody and you sat down and you cracked open a book and it just came to you naturally? Or did you actually have to work at it, but you spent the time and invested the energy working at it?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I was young, so I'm talking about like kindergarten through eighth grade. I just was always at the pinnacle of my like educational ability. I don't know, like I don't know if it's a natural grace that God has given me. That's how I like to think about it, because it really wasn't my own doing. I just always excelled in my classes. I really enjoyed, like, growing up. I think my parents didn't really force education or force like reading books or anything on me. I just naturally like to read books. So I had like a
Internal
library of books that I
drive.
would
It was an internal drive that just made
internal drive. Yeah.
you seek to do your best, which is effective for
Absolutely.
everybody else. If we seek to do the best that we can within our ability, then the opportunities are there, because you couldn't possibly have known that the principal was going to have this program and place you in it. You just did the best that you could,
Absolutely.
which is the requirement. And I applaud you. I applaud you not only on doing your best, but then also being willing to share with other people as to how they can too. Because if you weren't here saying, listen, I'm from the Bronx and I've achieved this, then maybe some people would say, well, it's because I'm from the Bronx. Or it's perhaps
Mm,
because my parents didn't have a lot of funds. Perhaps that's the reason. But you take away so many of our excuses when you
mm.
show up like this and you say, okay, I've done it. So now go to the legal experience and now begin to tell us, after all of the self-talk, the negative self-talk about not being able to do this, achieve this, even though you went to University of Pennsylvania, which is a top academic place. What
Mhm.
made you shift? What made you say, okay, I'm going to apply anyway?
Right. Yes, that is a big part of my story. So, as you said, I went to an Ivy League university. Then I worked at Morgan Stanley. So you would think that I would be completely fearless and ready to tackle any educational opportunity, but that,
Or
the fears.
lap of luxury, because that was a
Yep.
very lucrative position that you were in, but you were seeking
Yes.
back and give back and see how you could expand and do even more.
Spot on. I mean, so I worked at Morgan Stanley for 2 years right after I graduated from undergrad. Initially, I thought I would go straight to law school, but I took the time off to just really make sure that law school was the path that I wanted to take. And so when I was making the decision, like I said, I was crippled by fear, because all I ever heard about law school was that it's so difficult. But when I was a year into working, and what really kind of changed the game for me was that I began to see other people that I knew going through law school and graduating, people who were like, 2 or 3 years ahead of me in undergrad, going to school and graduating from law school. And I was like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? What is holding me back from pursuing this dream that I've really always had?
Which is the
And,
beauty story. Their story that you're sharing with us is that you did it because you saw other people doing it and you felt, oh, well, if they can do it, so can I. And the beauty of your story on the show today, for everybody watching, all of us, is that you have come from regular beginnings, and yet you've been able to push and do it. So we can too.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. And that is really what I would want people to take away. And you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that no matter what environment, no matter what your background, like I said, both of my parents were not even born in this country. So, for example, when it came to,
Graduate too, aren't you?
yes, first generation graduate from college and law school, thank you, yes. And so, you know, that I didn't allow that to limit me. I think I allowed that to push me because I knew the sacrifices that they made to put me in Catholic school so that I could have the best opportunity possible, the best exposure to education in this city, in their view at the time, so.
Let me ask you a personal question, if you don't
Yeah.
mind. Many of the people who are watching, who may be young women, the
Yeah.
number one thought on our minds as young women, myself too at that stage, is, oh, got to get connected, boyfriend, kids, husband. How were you able to kind of position that while you were looking at expanding your academic search?
Yes, yeah. So I'll talk about that in the context of my graduate, pursuing my graduate degree in law. And yeah, at the time I was already dating my now husband. We've been together for years. So we're already dating. And honestly, this is a big point because I think that, we're in a time where, back in the day, there are traditional roles and women would stay at home and whatever, but now women are going on to get their graduate degrees. And so when I had to make that decision, do I want to pursue a family life right now at 21 at the time or however old I was, or do I want to pursue my graduate degree? I knew that I had to play the long game, right? Sowing the seed now and pursuing my law degree earlier instead of later is what would set me up to, you know, put myself and put my children and my grandchildren who are coming after me in the best, educational position or in the best life position, if that makes sense. So it is a sacrifice, as a woman specifically pursuing a graduate degree when you desire to have a family, when you might desire to have children at a young age, it is a sacrifice. But I think we have to play the long game, and think about the future and think about the things that we want to pass down to future generations.
Wow, awesome thought process. So you were looking at the other students, you realized they were not necessarily smarter than you, and so you went ahead and applied. Now, many people get stuck at the LSAT, they get stuck at the logic questions. When you took the exams, you automatically did well, or you still had to do some serious self-talk in order to move forward?
I did not do very well on the LSAT, and I would say that is another important part of my story because even when I went to pursue the law degree, I still faced challenges. But I knew what my end goal was. I knew what my passion and my desire was, and so I just kept going. When I took the LSAT, my score, it wasn't what I wanted it to be, and I thought I'm not going to get in anywhere. But I still applied with what I thought was an extremely low score, and I still was able to get into Fordham by the grace of God. And if I had let that low score stop me, I would not have applied at the time that I did, and I would not have seen the success that I did in law school at the time that I did. So I think it's very important to understand that where you're meant to go, that's where you're going to face the challenges because, like there's always going to be a fight on your way to your destiny, right? Your destiny and what you were called and created to do, that's where you're going to find the most prosperity. So there's always going to be challenges on that road, because that's just how it is. So I knew and I understood that it wouldn't be easy, and I just pushed past and did my best to overcome it, and I did by God's grace.
So we talked about one area that we know generally will hinder people on their journey. One is that LSAT, doing those logic questions and feeling like you're not up to standard. Whereas it's just a matter of the fact that you haven't done those questions before because
Yes.
they don't happen in regular life. So you have to think a certain way. But the second thing that you had to overcome, that many other people have to overcome, is the academics, not just the academics, but the financial aspect. When you
Mm.
thought going to law school, many people would have shut down because they say, oh, well, I don't have the funds. How did you rationalize that?
Yeah, I would say that I just figured that if I'm meant to be in law school, that God would make a way for me to handle it financially. And, that part is still being resolved. I have loans and things of that sort, but I still believe that,
The Obamas in the White House,
yep.
when they came in, they said both of them had loans, student loans, but yet look at what they
Mhm.
achieved. So that
Absolutely.
was not necessarily something that you used to stop you. You just used it as something that you needed as part of the course.
Yes.
I applaud you.
Thank you.
I applaud you. So we are going to come right back and we're going to come back and talk about some of these principles that she used in order to move forward, overcome her fear, get unstuck, and live courageously. And as we're going out, I'd love for you guys to take a look at the book at askarleneshow.com, which has the 10 secrets, and also stay tuned because we're going to be right back.
Hi, I'm Arlene, host of the television talk show Ask Arlene, which airs on Thursdays at 6:30. And as a business consultant and life coach, I help you to move forward in your business, project, or endeavor. So if you always wanted to write a book, but you just haven't seemed to get started, or you always wanted to 10x that business that you already have, expand it to the next level, you know exactly what you need to do, but you just haven't done it? Well, I've already purchased all the courses, read all the books, the Tony Robbins, all sorts. I have several degrees, including a master's degree and credits toward a doctorate. I've sat with and met celebrities and done the networking. And what I've realized is what I really needed was a mastermind group of people working toward my project, my business, or my endeavor.
Hi, welcome back. We're talking with Tatiana Hyman, who, Codner, excuse me. Her
No, no.
married name, guys, is Codner. Pardon me. She's successfully married from the Bronx, a successful attorney, grew up, born and raised, and we're so excited to have her on the show. Today, she's telling us her secrets as to how she was able to move forward and overcome all of the fear, get unstuck, live courageously. For those of you who don't know, I've written a book. So I'm really into this, and I have these 10 secrets. Number one is decide. Number two, visualization and okay, I don't remember what the other one is, but visualization. Number three, momentum, which means that you just get started, which is exactly what she did. She got started on the journey, even though she wasn't sure how it was going to pan out. She didn't know all the whys and the wherefores on the journey. She then followed step number four, which is proximity. She found the people who were doing it and figured out how to get in proximity to the people that were doing it. And that's how she realized, oh, there are steps that I can follow and I can do it too. And then there are 10 other steps. Tatiana today is going to tell us what are some of these steps that she used in order to crush it in life, which she's doing right now. Hi, Tatiana.
Hello. Thanks again for having me.
Okay, tell us some more of your secrets.
Yes. Okay. So where do I start? I think so many things have been incredibly important. I feel led to start with mentorship because I think that's something that, yes, mentorship.
How did you find good mentors? Because that's a
Yes.
secret.
Yes, so mentorship is closely tied, in my experience, it's been closely tied to networking, which I'm sure is one of the things that you discuss in your book. I can only imagine because networking is very, very important. And networking simply means a lot of people get intimidated when they hear that word, but it simply means, like what you were saying, proximity, getting close to the people who are doing what you desire to
Absolutely.
do, or
Yes.
who have the the experiences that you are going to be who have gone through the experiences that you're going to be going through, so that they can kind of steer you in the right direction, give you insight
Yes.
on things to look out for. And so, yes, coming up, I mentioned earlier that I did legal internships in high school and college because, even though I faced some resistance right before my application, I always knew I wanted to do law school. So I put myself in positions to get closer to people who were lawyers or who were in law school. And not only did I do that, but I maximized those opportunities by keeping in touch with those people over the years. So, for example, I was an intern at the Attorney General's office in Harlem, New York, and I still keep in touch with the head attorney in that office. I interned there in 2015, and it's 2023 now. And he connects me with current law students who come through that office, and I'm able to talk to them and kind of pour into them the same way that lawyers that were there at the time poured into me. And so
How did you keep
networking
in
is,
contact? Did you
yes.
call them up every once in a while? Did you go to lunch? I mean, how did you keep in
Hmm.
contact?
Yeah, so with him specifically, and with all of my other mentors, I'm very intentional. And at the very least, I think you should keep a list of people who you've met along your journey, who you have authentically connected with and who have shown some interest in your journey. Because whether you email them, you know, once every year, once every 2 years, because they've shown a passion in you, they're not gonna, turn you away. I think some people get nervous, like, oh, I haven't emailed this person in 18 months and they're not gonna want to hear from me. That's not true. People are willing to help other people who are showing promise, who are showing that they have a drive. And people, deep down, most people want to pour into people like that. So yeah, I ping my mentors at least once a year to update them on what I'm doing. And it's easy to remember when I have a big success, I send them an email and they're always happy to hear from me. So
Beautiful.
that's one thing I
Done an
did. Yep.
excellent job, not just of keeping in touch with the mentors, but of finding them. So when you
Yeah.
were looking for your clerkship, that is something that's highly sought after by law
Mhm.
students. Just like when you graduate from college, you're looking for that opportunity, and you were able to get into Morgan Stanley. So what is it that you do when you're looking for a mentor? You're looking to connect with people that you don't already know.
Yes. So one thing I like to say is that if it's not organic, it's not going to be authentic. So I do less of seeking out mentors and I do more of just putting myself in spaces where I know I'll be surrounded by people who I look up to, or people who are doing what I want to do. And then I just, kind of talk about, I go and I meet them. And then the minute I find that I have an organic connection with someone, I put my energy into that. And so, like I said, a lot of my mentors have come through internships that I've done. But for example, speaking of Morgan Stanley, when I was a summer analyst there, I met tons and tons of people. But there's one specific mentor that I can think about that I had such an organic connection with, who to this day, he's helped put me in touch with, people who have completely catapulted my career, who have completely helped me make important decisions. So it's not about quantity, it's about quality when it comes to networking. You don't want to have a list of 100 people, right, in your network. You want to have 20, 30, just some core people who are really engaged and, really willing to pour into you.
So if I could punctuate what I heard you say, one of the key pieces that you did was you didn't ignore people. You treated people nicely, regardless
Yes.
who they were in the journey or who you thought they may have been, because later on they turned out to be someone that you truly needed, that helped you. So as people, we need to truly embrace and just be kind to everybody, because we don't know who they may be or where we may need them on the journey. Another key piece about you while you're on the show, and why I'm so impressed by you, it said in your bio that you went to Fordham. They had 415 students, and out of that, there were only 20 Black students.
Mm-hmm.
And out of 20 Black students, you were the one who was elected president of the Black Bar Association, or the Black Law Student Association, but also you were the law review editor. So that
Yes.
means all 414 of those people, give or take, had to support you in that role. So not only are you successful, but you're looking to bring forth your own people in order to have a greater level of success. So you want company. They say there's room at the top, but you want to
Yes.
make sure that you're not the only one there. So tell us
Yes.
about, after you were in law school, it's so hard, it's so challenging. Many people who go through law school understand this concept that this is all you can do because you don't have time for anything else. But you were looking for these other avenues whereby you could bring your people along. Tell me about that, and how did you find the time to do all these additional leadership roles?
Yes. So just to go back to something that you said about being kind to people, I like to say that people are doors. And
Mm.
so that is something that I really value. And I think when it comes to the leadership opportunities that I was able to have in law school, as you said, I was actually the vice president of the Black Law Students Association. And then I was the first Black person in the Fordham Law Review history to be elected as the editor in chief.
Woo!
And I
That's
think,
my alma
thank you.
mater. I'm so
Yes.
excited for you. And I know when I was there weren't a lot of us. So I'm applauding
Yep.
you. I've seen
Thank you
it with
so
my own
much.
eyes.
Yeah. And I think that, being a leader, you also have to, like you said, treat people with kindness, be authentic, but also be bold. I would never have gone for those leadership opportunities if it wasn't for boldness and if it wasn't for being in touch with focusing on my personal strengths. So when it came to running for the Fordham Law Review Board, I knew that, the Law Review is mostly, not a lot of people that look like me. It would be difficult. But I said, what can I contribute to the space that I'm in right now, which is Fordham Law School? What can I do? How can I use my strengths to give back and to pull other students up, right? So that was a driving decision in me running to be the vice president of the Black Law Students Association and also running to be the EIC, because I knew I had these organizational and people skills that would help me thrive in that position. And that would also be a point of reference for other students of color that they can do it too, right? It doesn't matter what these organizations look like now. You have the ability and you have the drive to change that story and to show other people of color that it's possible.
Beautiful, beautiful. A story of success, homegrown, Caribbean parentage. But now we're also looking at not just your academic background. You're a spiritual person. You're academically sound. We talked about your marriage, that you're a wholesome person. You looked to do things in a particular way where you focused on your academics when it was academic time. You focused on your relationships when it was relationship time. But also the fact that you are of Caribbean descent. So things weren't necessarily always handed to you in terms of finances, and you use your spiritual walk. Tell me how your spiritual walk was able to impact this journey that you've been on that has achieved such success.
Yep. In the Bible, there's an Apostle Paul. He said, "I am what I am by the grace of God." And I firmly stand by that for my life, because I talked about the fear that almost crippled me when it came to going to law school. And it was really through prayer that I felt the strong, urge to continue and to go for law school. And so if it wasn't for God leading me to go to law school, I would not have been in law school. And if it wasn't for me having an understanding that I'm not just here to collect all of these accolades, I'm also here to bring glory to God. So if he's chosen me, if he saved me, then I'm supposed to be excellent in everything that I do. So that is really the most important thing that I draw from my faith.
And that's a beautiful way to close the show. It wraps it all up in a bow. Her faith is what has caused her to persevere, which is one of the 10 secrets to overcoming fear and living courageously and getting unstuck. So I want you to go and pursue your dreams and your goals and allow your spiritual walk to also help you to enhance it. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. And check us out, AskArleneShow.com and on YouTube.
Name some things I'll be without you, good. Stop the growth, I bet you think you could. Said you gon' leave me, man, I wish you would. Yeah, I'm different, so I'm misunderstood. So I'ma always be good. Said I'ma always be good.